From your window, you can hear ear-piercing panic as people scramble in the streets in desperation, their screams harmonizing with the shrill wail of sirens. Beneath your feet, the ground shakes under the weight of military war machines. You see uniformed figures storm through your neighborhood, throwing people into unmarked vehicles. Then a boot kicks open your door. "Grab him," they shout. "They're here for you." The military police drag you kicking and screaming from your home. Your mind races. You didn't do anything wrong. What's this all about? "It's for your own good," you hear a voice say. Boom. A house explodes down the street, sending wood splintering into the air. You feel like something is watching you. Something big. You look up to see a brooding sky full of eerie lights glowing along the side of a massive alien mothership. This dystopian scenario, though currently unimaginable, could end up being very real. The aliens finally invade, and the government enacts martial law, a harsh, totalitarian state where your rights and freedoms are ripped from you in place of what the government declares as the greater good.
The greater good.
How can this be for the greater good?
The greater good.
Welcome back to the Twilight Academy. I'm Wesley, and tonight we're going down the rabbit hole of government conspiracies. More specifically, the false flag or fake alien attack that could be acted out by the US government and other elites to scare us into submission and finally bring us under a one-world government to fight off this foreign enemy. So wave hi to your FBI agent watching you through your camera, because we're about to get into the stuff they don't want you to know. Have you noticed a massive uptick in alien and UFO sightings recently? Especially the ones covered by the mainstream media. The sightings that were once mocked are now openly covered by the mainstream media, and those with discerning eyes feel like it's not a coincidence. Here are a few clips titled Fleur 1, Go Fast, and Gimbal from the US Navy. They're good at boats, but not at names.
Nickel 6-1 Tango, Roger. Roger. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing! It's rotating.
The Navy and the CIA decided to declassify these now. Doesn't that seem odd? The CIA never gives anything out. These are the people who make Fight Club look like a Reddit AMA thread. Then there's the Las Vegas incident.
8 Metro officers were among the witnesses.
One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious.
This one has really gone worldwide.
The backyard alien?
Yes.
And the Miami one. Say what you want, but that's a lot of police cars. All of this extra coverage is used with the direct intent of something called predictive programming. This is a technique the government or other higher-ups use to help you accept otherwise ridiculous events. Leaks, news coverage, fictional movies, or even books act as a mass mind control tool to make the population more accepting of planned future events. This was first described and proposed by researcher Alan Watt, who defines predictive programming as a subtle form of psychological conditioning provided by the media to acquaint the public with planned societal changes to be implemented by our leaders. If and when these changes are put through, the public will be already familiarized with them and will accept them as natural progressions, thus lessening possible public resistance and commotions. So the more aliens you see, the more you'll just accept it. But what if I told you that in this theory, there are no aliens? Yeah, you heard that right. In a false flag alien attack, it's all staged. So in this theory, there are no ETs. It's just the elites pulling a fast one to gain massive control. Who knew the Illuminati were just former disgruntled theater kids? Fear is the greatest psychological weapon. If you're afraid, people can make you do anything in exchange for the preservation of life. I hear what you're saying. This would never work. I hate to break it to you. It already has. Orson Welles, brilliant storyteller and flamingo enthusiast, decided to adapt H.G. Wells' sci-fi masterpiece for a radio drama. It aired on October 30th, 1938, just in time for Halloween. The broadcast simulated a series of news bulletins reporting a Martian invasion, complete with realistic sound effects and urgent updates. Wells strategically presented the narrative in a news bulletin format, blurring the line between fiction and reality. People tuning in mid-broadcast might have missed the disclaimers, leading them to believe that an actual extraterrestrial invasion was underway. The result? Mass panic. In an era without widespread television, radio was a primary source of information, and the realistic nature of the broadcast caused a considerable number of listeners to believe that Martians were really invading Earth. Wells' portrayal of the chaos and destruction was so convincing that some listeners reportedly fled their homes, seeking shelter from the supposed Martian onslaught. Now, I know you think we're much more sophisticated now and would never fall for something like that. But we're also much more sophisticated now. We have deepfakes, AI voices, holograms, and a slew of other techniques to make the imaginary very, very real.
Former president or his legal team acting in bad faith. This is a deepfake example of what is possible with powerful computer and editing.
You may be surprised to know that the former head honcho of NASA itself talked about a false flag alien attack. You might remember his name from history class, Wernher von Braun. This brainiac was an ex-Nazi rocket scientist whom the US government offered an exemption for his war crimes in exchange for that big brain of his. In fact, they did this with a lot of Nazi scientists. A lot of them went to work for NASA. It was called Operation Paperclip.
Are we the baddies?
Now, von Braun met with Dr. Carol Rosin and told her some very interesting things, but I'm going to let her tell it.
In 1974, after being a sixth grade school teacher, I was introduced to the late Dr. Wernher von Braun in the U.S., the father of rocketry. In my first meeting with him during that first 3.5 hours, he said to me, "Carol, you will stop the weaponization of space. And we have to prevent the weaponization of space because there is a lie being told to everyone that the weaponization of space is now first being based upon the evil empire, the Russians. There are many enemies," he said, "against whom we're going to build this space-based weapon system, the first of whom was the Russians, which was existing at that time. Then there would be terrorists. Then there would be third world countries. Now we call them rogue nations or nations of concern. Then there would be asteroids." And then he would repeat to me over and over, "And the last card, the last card, the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat." In other words, we have to have some reason to spend these trillions, to waste these dollars on a space-based weapon system, and they're all lies.
UFOologist Stephen Greer has also spoke about this topic in length.
I got a box of documents from the agency, and one of them was describing the psychological warfare value of the UFO issue. And it was signed by the director of the CIA at the time, Walter Bedell Smith. As you know, the guy who invented the rocket for Adolf Hitler, Wernher von Braun, on his deathbed, told his senior assistant, Carol Rosin, who's on my team, who's now in her late 70s, that in fact, this entire threat of an alien invasion was always in the cards, starting in the 50s, that they began to hoax things and position this whole issue.
So there you go. The CIA and the government does in fact know when there will be an alien attack, because they're going to be the ones doing it. Thanks for coming to the Twilight Academy. I hope you learned something, or at least enjoyed yourself. I'll see you all a little later.